You're listening to LSU Daily with Matt Musso, your home for all things LSU sports.
Off and running here on another edition of LSU Daily. Welcome in and glad to have you along for the ride. I know every day when we start this, I say it's a jam-packed show, but today is a jam-packed show. Couple of things to get to with LSU football, including a big fish from the state of Louisiana landed in the 2026 recruiting class. Funny how timing works. On Wednesday's episode, we were just talking about how important the state of Louisiana will be for LSU, and this was one of the players mentioned, and he is now in the boat. We will talk about that. LSU has updated the positions and roster for spring practice. One very interesting change, but it actually makes a lot of sense when you look at the Tigers' current makeup. Is it just for the spring? Could it mean something more? We'll talk plenty about that. LSU baseball right around the corner. One day, just a little bit over 24 hours away from throwing out the first pitch. They'll be dodging some raindrops. Could there be some weather? And the LSU basketball team lost again, but they did succeed in showing me the one singular thing that I wanted to see. So, brief thumbnail on that to wrap it up. Jam-packed show. Subscribe, share, follow on social media, Twitter X at Musso Matthew, on Instagram at Matthew Musso1. You can find me on Facebook as well at Matt Musso, Matthew Musso. Both accounts, go ahead, give them both a look-see. And let's go ahead and dive right into it. We will start, as per usual, with LSU football, and we will start on the recruiting end. Earlier on Thursday morning, Brian Kelly, Brad Davis, and the Tigers get great news. Offensive lineman Brysten Martinez commits to LSU. Martinez out of East Ascension over there in Gonzales. 4-star offensive tackle, number 59 player nationally per on 3. Top 10 offensive tackle in the country, number 8, and the number 5 player in the state of Louisiana. This is a huge, huge get for LSU. Just a little bit more impact on what it does for the Tigers in their class and things of that nature. And then we'll get into Brysten Martinez a little bit more, the player. This brings LSU's commitment total for 2026 up to 6. The class has moved up to 3rd in the nation and currently holds the number 1 ranking in the Southeastern Conference. Obviously, look, it is February 13th. There is a long way to go until the December signing period, but LSU, Brian Kelly and staff off to a fantastic start here in the 2026 class, and they're off to a fantastic start in Louisiana, which is something that we talked about on Wednesday's show, because we mentioned that Jaraylon McCoy, a recent decommit from LSU, had scheduled an official visit, and that, you're going to still recruit him full force and go after him and see if you can't get him back in the class, but the state of Louisiana is really where you needed to focus in on, because this is one of the better classes in the state's recent history, and they've had some great ones, but you look at it, and 6 players from Louisiana rank in the top 100 nationally per on 3. You have 5 of those guys at the top 10 in their position nationally, 2 of them number 1 in their position nationally, and 4 of them in the top 5. Brysten Martinez obviously is in that realm. Top 100, top 10 in his position, top 6 in the state of Louisiana. So it's a huge get. And what this does is it now gives LSU, as I was saying, I have to find it, 5 of the state's top 10 players already in 2026. They are racking up and locking down Louisiana. Now, Brysten Martinez, a little bit just kind of on him. 6'5", 290 pounds. Again, as I said, plays at EA over there in Gonzales. Chose the Tigers over a host of SEC offers, Bama, A&M, Georgia, several others to go along with that. He has spent plenty of time in Baton Rouge. Obviously, as you can imagine, Gonzales is 35, 40 minutes, depending on traffic, away from LSU's campus. So he obviously has been there plenty, has developed a great relationship with Brad Davis, and he becomes the crown jewel of LSU's class on the offensive line so far now at this point. He is the second offensive lineman committed, but the first tackle. And you will see him going into his senior year now continue to rise up boards, I would imagine, throughout the country. I mean, 3 of the 4, recruiting services that everybody follows have him ranked in the top 100. ESPN actually has him ranked 32nd in the nation. So this is a guy who plenty are high on, and he will keep going. LSU, what he also adds to is just, it's another notch in the belt, another feather in the cap for Brad Davis recruiting offensive linemen to LSU. I mean, what he has done he's a generational run. Like, he's on a generational run. Whether you look at getting guys out of the portal like Miles Frazier heading into that first year under Brian Kelly, for Brad Davis. Obviously, Will Campbell, Emory Jones, obviously Carius Kern most recently, but you can go back flipping Weston Davis, a 5-star from A&M at tackle, flipping Cohen Eccles, a high 4-star from A&M in that one class. It has just been Lance Hurd. Obviously, he ended up at Tennessee after 1 year at LSU, but that was another 5-star tackle. Brysten Martinez, the next one here in line under Brad Davis. So this is a huge, huge pickup for LSU. We'll wait and see kind of how it goes, how the rest of his high school career goes, how he can move up boards, what scouts and analysts continue to say about him to see if he is potentially a day one guy at LSU. Again, there's a long way to go. And as we've learned in recruiting, NIL is going to play a factor, especially when you're dealing with these top 50 guys potentially in the nation, and Brysten Martinez will be no different. This is going to be one of those that tests the dirt. How bad do you want to stay home and play for the home team school? Because Alabama, A&M, Georgia, those teams are not going to stop recruiting Brysten Martinez, and you have a long way to go. So we will keep an eye on it, but this is a huge get from the state and continues to lock it down. Now 5 of the top 10 already in Louisiana for 2026 pledged to the LSU Tigers, and it should be noted that none of those 5 have committed anywhere else up to this point. They are all first-time commits to LSU. That also cannot really be overstated. Brysten Martinez, the latest commit for LSU into the class of 2026. All right, the other LSU football piece of news that we wanted to get to, and a hat tip here to Zach Nagy, who covers LSU for SI, noted this late last night on Twitter, or I should say yesterday evening on Twitter, that LSU updated their online roster ahead of spring practice, and one of the key changes is that running back Juwan Johnson is now listed as quarterback Juwan Johnson. Of course, everyone very familiar with Johnson from his time in high school football in Louisiana, played quarterback and defensive back, broke the state record for total yards at 14,470 and total touchdowns, 171. He's an extremely dynamic athlete. You've seen him play multiple positions at LSU, while, again, he played quarterback and DB during his time at LCA. He was recruited to LSU as a cornerback, but then they moved him to running back a season ago because you had the situation with Trey Holly and you needed some depth, and then John Emery went down and you really needed some depth. And you saw Juwan Johnson get into some games actually at the running back position, and now they have him at quarterback. So what does this mean? I will tell you, it's very exciting to think about a package for Juwan Johnson on offense for LSU. And look, we've obviously seen that work in the past with the Tigers. They had talked about doing that a season ago. It never really materialized outside of a few games where he got the ball in his hands. So I don't really know if that's where this is going. It's obviously early to tell. When we get out there to spring practice and whatnot, you'll be able to see it, and that's when you'll really get your answer. I will also say LSU's offense is set up to be incredibly talented. I mean, what you did in the portal, you have plenty of weapons. Not to say another weapon in Juwan Johnson wouldn't be welcome. Of course it would be. But what I think this is first and foremost is LSU needs a body at quarterback for spring practice. Colin Hurley is still a long way in his recovery. When Brian Kelly gave the update, was that last week? I mean, he mentioned that Colin Hurley was back in Jacksonville recovering with his family. That there is progress, but it's a long road. It's a long process. Spring practice starts on March 8th. It stands to reason that Colin Hurley won't be there with LSU, and you'll see how long ultimately it takes to get back. I mean, again, this is a 17-year-old kid who's in a very serious and traumatic accident and was injured, and obviously has to get back in all of those phases. He's enrolled. The semester has started, but, I mean, he's back home in Jacksonville. So, Juwan Johnson is a guy that has experience at the position who can fill that role body-wise. Because you have Garrett Nussmeier, you have Michael Van Buren, you have your walk-ons and guys like that, but Juwan Johnson can give you another body in camp, in spring camp there at the position. So I think that's probably what this is first and foremost, and we'll see if that can develop into a package. Because, again, as I said, LSU's offense for 2025 is set up to be extremely, extremely potent. But if you have an athlete, especially one as dynamic as Juwan Johnson, and you could figure out a way to get the ball in his hands, you absolutely do it. So that'll definitely be something to watch as they go into spring practice. But I think first and foremost, at least the first thing that popped into my mind was you need somebody else back there after the injury to Colin Hurley so you can properly kind of go through spring camp. So we'll see how it evolves. But definitely intriguing, and the possibility of it is definitely exciting when you look at Juwan Johnson just because of the type of athlete that he is. All right, let's do some LSU baseball here as we hit the middle point of the show. Tigers open up the season. Purdue-Fort Wayne comes in for 3 games. That's Friday, Valentine's Day. First pitch set for 2 p.m. Cade Anderson, sophomore lefty, will be on the bump for the Tigers, getting his first career opening day start. So that'll be obviously something to watch. Cade flashed at times last year, definitely at the beginning of the season, and then again towards the end. So there's plenty to look forward to with him. We will do a preview episode of Musso at the Box for this series where I'll go a little bit deeper into Purdue-Fort Wayne. If you care to learn a little bit about the Mastodons, great mascot, it'll be very surface level because there's just not a lot out there on Purdue-Fort Wayne. But that'll be on Musso at the Box. What I want to do here is kind of tell you what I'm looking forward to opening weekend, what I want to see opening weekend, because first pitch is at 2 p.m. on Friday. We might as well get this out of the way now. It'd be a really short shelf life with the pod. You're not going to learn a bunch about LSU opening weekend against Purdue-Fort Wayne. That's a team that won 19 games a year ago. They have a lot of new faces. Their entire starting rotation is guys in their first year in the program, and they're all transfers from junior college and or like D2. LSU should win it. They should sweep. You're not going to learn much, but that's not to say you can't learn anything. And first and foremost, what I want to see from LSU is them beat this team like they should. I want to see dominant statement wins for LSU. I don't want them to ever be in doubt here on the onset of the season. Because while, again, it's going to be very easy to hand wave that away if it plays out that way, because it's Purdue-Fort Wayne, you're LSU, you're number 2 in the country. People have expectations on you winning a national championship this year. Exactly. So go out there and prove it. Does that make sense? Because here's the deal. While you might not learn anything and come away feeling like, oh, LSU's going to win the national championship because they bludgeoned Purdue-Fort Wayne for 3 games, you can definitely come out of this weekend feeling skeptical about things if it doesn't go just domination, right? A season ago, I mean, LSU right there, they're top 10. Some polls had them top 5 coming off a national championship. And it took late inning heroics to get past Virginia VMI 12-7 in the opener. Then the very next day, you won 2-0 over Central Arkansas. You're like, okay, Well, the pitching, Luke Holman fit the bill, but the offense lagged in that game against Central Arkansas. Okay, your offense was great in the opener against VMI, but Thatcher Hurd only went 2 2/3 innings. Is he really the ace? Everyone said he was ready to go. Is he really? And then you bludgeoned VMI in game number 3 because they were out of pitching, and you're LSU, and they're not. But you came out of that weekend with more questions than answers. You want to come out of the weekend with more answers than questions. I'll refer you back to 2023, and I know everybody's going to be like, oh, well, yeah, invoke 2023, arguably the greatest team in the history of the program. But that was a team that had, they were preseason number 1, unanimous in the country, and everybody looked at them and said, okay, they're a favorite to win the national championship, and that's something that, honestly, they should get done. And when you go back and you look at how that weekend went, obviously, you had Paul Skeens go, and you dominate 10-0, and it just got off to a great start for LSU. 5-3 in game 2, little bit more hesitant in that one, but LSU jumped out to a 4-0 lead, and the game was really never in doubt. And then you beat them 9-2 the next day, swept through it, and outscored them 24-5. And it's like, okay, this team, they're off and running. Like, you saw Tommy White be awesome in his first AB. Now he got hurt, but you saw him be awesome. You saw the guys you expected to be good be really good. And it turned into a dominating weekend and like, okay, wait, they're off and running. They're hitting their stride. Let's go. And that's just going to be very important for this LSU team. I've said it. I want to see it all come together faster than it did a season ago. And it starts there with a dominant weekend over an inferior opponent, to where you don't come out with more questions than answers. And that includes, can whoever is behind Jared Jones, I've told you I would like it to be Jake Brown for the first go-round here. Does that person get off to a hot start? Does Jared Jones get off to the hot start? How does your rotation look? You're going to see guys in their first appearances, right? This is going to be Chase Shore's first appearance since 2023. March of 2023. How's the rust? There's fans in the stands this time. Lights are on. It's bright. Anthony Ianson coming from UC San Diego, getting his first start now for a major college baseball program in what should be a packed house that day as well. Defense. You have new alignment in the infield and everything else. How does that look? So those are really the things I'm looking for. Defense, your starting pitching, specifically the Shores and Ianson in their first go-round, and Cade Anderson. He's in a much different role, obviously, here. How they respond, and hopefully it all turns into a dominating weekend for LSU where you leave with more answers than you have questions. Or I should say less questions than you have answers, right? And you push forward. And then you can go ahead and encounter some adversity. And LSU will. They'll go face Dallas Baptist up in Arlington, who's ranked. They'll face Kansas State and Nebraska in a tournament. Those 3 games are in a row, and all 3 of those teams were in the NCAA tournament a season ago. So you'll face some adversity. You'll get tested. I don't need you getting tested this weekend. I need you to go out there and look like the LSU Tigers and get off to a fast start and immediately start to build some confidence, because that didn't necessarily happen a season ago. You won, but you could see chinks in the armor. I don't really want to see any chinks in the armor right now. Again, Musso at the Box will go deeper into that conversation, what I want to see a little bit more in depth, and a little bit more in depth on the Mastodons. The great mascot, man, from Purdue Fort Wayne. So be sure to get subscribed up and check that out as well. Okay, last but not least, LSU basketball. They went up to Bud Walton Arena trying to get their second SEC victory and sweep the season series with Arkansas. It did not happen. That is not surprising. We did not expect that to happen, as a matter of fact. LSU lost 70-58. The losing streak extends to 7. Okay, whatever. I told you on the show Wednesday, the one thing I wanted to see was LSU come out and fight and be competitive after just a complete gut punch against Ole Miss, where you had that game won for 37 minutes, played your best basketball, and then all your problems creeped up in the last 3 minutes and change, and you lost on your home floor after leading by 11. You saw that. LSU jumped out early, quick, withstand every punch that Arkansas threw against them in the first half. Victorious Miller, a 3-ball late in the first half, gave LSU a halftime lead by 1. So, I mean, they were in the game, y'all, and that was great to see. They didn't quit. They fought. And they did the same thing down the stretch, even when Avicic took over the game for Arkansas, and you got outscored by 13 in the second half. And specifically, your scoring went, it disappeared, as it has become want to do here for LSU. Only 23 points in the second half for the Tigers. But, I mean, you didn't get the scoring you needed from Cam Carter or Jordan Sears or Jai Bailey, for that matter. They combined to shoot just 26% from the floor all night. A lot of your scoring actually came from Robert Miller, freshman, season high 16 points. He was awesome and played well down on the block by the rim. So, they weren't going to win that game. They were almost a double-digit underdog on the road at a really tough place to play against a team playing much better than the first time that you saw them. I wanted to see them be competitive. They were. They haven't quit, and that's important because there's a lot of holes you can poke at Matt McMahon right now. He still has that team playing hard. He hasn't lost the team, and that's big. So that's going to kind of be the thing you watch continually here throughout the season because times just get more and more trying. For LSU, losing streak now 7. But they have a chance to snap it as they face Oklahoma next. They have to go up to Norman, so it probably won't go well. But there's a chance for LSU to hopefully get off the schneid there in that game. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Be sure to subscribe, share, follow me on social media, and be here next time for more on LSU Daily.